Hi, this is Braden Holtby.
Hey, this is Tanner the Bulldozer Bozer.
Hi, this is Brian Burke from Toronto, Ontario.
This is Daryl Sutter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carly Agro from Sportsnet Central.
This is Jay Onright.
This is Quick Dick coming to you from Toughnut, Saskatchewan.
Hey, everybody. My name is Theo Fleury.
This is Kelly Rudy.
This is Corey Cross.
This is Wade Redden.
This is Jordan Tutu.
My name is Jim Pattison.
Hey, it's Ron McLean, Hockey Night in Canada and Rogers Hometown Hockey, and welcome to the Sean Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I didn't get up to a whole lot. I did a little bit of work on the. I bought a gym and then put it in the garage, like a squat rack and bench and everything. Anyways, I got tired of staring at the wall, so I bought a couple mirrors, and I put up some mirrors on the weekend and didn't break any. Didn't get bad luck yet, but I had a great weekend. I hope all of you are finding ways to have a little bit of fun on the weekends. We got a cool one today. Good friend of mine back on again. But before we get there, let's get to today's episode sponsors. Carly Clausen, the team over at Windsor Plywood, builders of the podcast studio table for everything wood. These are the guys. Deck season is upon us, and Windsor is stocked up on their Micro Pro Sienna Brown treated lumber. So if you got a backyard project on the go, stop in and see the group at Windsor Plywood. They'll get you hooked up. I always preach, I don't love social media. I think by now lots of people know that. But if you want to check out what the latest going on at Windsor or any of the sponsors is, hop on your social media and, do a little creeping, and take a look at what Windsor Plywood's got going on. All the latest projects they're working on are on there. Or if you're wondering what else they could provide, give them a call, 780-875-9663. Clay Smiley and the team over at Prophet River. They specialize in importing firearms to the United States of America. They pride themselves in making this process as easy for their customers as possible. The team at Prophet River does all the appropriate paperwork on both sides of the border in order to legally get the firearm into Canada and into your hands. Also, they take care of registering the firearm and transferring to your PAL or FAC before shipping them by mail, courier, or bus to wherever you're hiding out. Just go to ProfitRiver.com and check them out today. They are the major retailer of firearms, optics, and accessories serving all of Canada. T-Bar One Transport since 2002. For more than 19 years, the team at T-Bar has offered excellent service, putting the community first. Did you know they are located in Lloydminster and now Bonnyville? They can cover all your heavy haul needs. In their fleet, they have tank movers, 45-ton pickers, 1-tons, flat decks, Texas beds, winch trucks, and highway tractors. And the boys this week were heading up to Fort Mac, hauling a tank where they had to get a couple of special. I'm going to butcher this, and I know they'll give me a little bit of harassment, but they had to get some special brackets put on by Corlac, so they didn't have to worry about harming the tank, damaging the tank. So they're out and about. They're finding creative ways to move all your heavy haul needs, all right? So give the boys at T-Bar a call today and let them help you, 780-205-1709. Jen Gilbert and team for over 45 years, since 1976, the dedicated realtors of Coldwell Banker Cityside Realty have served Lloydminster and the surrounding area. Star Power is what they're providing their clients with 7-day-a-week access, and they know service is absolutely a priority because big life decisions, and they don't happen during office hours, do they? They happen at all times. And Coldwell Banker is here for you, Cityside Realty, for everything real estate, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Give them a call, 780-875-3343. Mortgage broker Jill Fisher. Now, obviously, her name says it all. She proudly serves the areas of Lloydminster, Bonnyville, Cold Lake, and Vermilion. She looks forward to working with you for all your mortgage needs. She's been dealing with this rascal for, I don't know. I'm sorry, Jill. I've been ducking her texts and everything, but give her credit. I said, just treat me like I'm a 2-year-old and just keep hassling me. And I'll eventually get all the paperwork signed. I'm in the process of signing a new mortgage at our house with her. And she has been excellent through the process and has dealt with me how I get sidetracked, probably like all of us. But if you're in need of a mortgage broker, you want somebody to take a look at what you got going on with your house and your mortgage, give Jill Fisher a call, 780-872-2914, or head to her website, www.jfisher.ca. SNP billboard out by the airport. If you're taking a tour, you can see the handiwork of Read and Write. If you're looking for outdoor signage, they're great at what they do. I pump up Mrs. Deanna Wallner because she always seems to make me look sharp. Gartner Management is a Lloydminster-based company specializing in all types of rental properties to help meet your needs. Whether you're looking for a small office or a 6,000 square foot commercial space, give Wade Gartner a call today, 780-808-5025. And if you're heading into any of these businesses, make sure you let them know you heard about them from the podcast. All right? Now let's get on to that T-Bar 1, Tale of the Tape. Originally from Paradise Hill, Saskatchewan, he's happily married and has 6 kids. A professor at Lakeland College, business owner, and co-host of the War on Weakness podcast. I'm talking about Ken Rutherford. So buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Sean Newman podcast. You're becoming a fan favorite, Kenny. This will be your 4th time entering into the studio. But first off, thanks for hopping in.
Well, thanks for having me on, Sean. It's always a pleasure to be with you, as you know.
Well, we talk. Sometimes my wife makes fun of me because I think we talk as much as probably we do to our spouses. But, with the podcast in particular, just to bring everybody up to speed if they haven't listened to all the episodes, you go back to the first episode, it was a ramshackle one with you, which I think, was really cool to do. And it was only, 20-some minutes long. And I remember the nerves and everything else. That was February 2019. And then if you fast forward, it took me until episode 132 to get you back on. And I had to do some convincing, as hard as that probably is to believe now. And we can talk a little bit about that episode here after we get going. But you brought to light kind of what the lockdowns or, the social distancing, everything was doing to you in your personal life. And then, of course, the latest one, episode 149, me, you, and Tanner sat down and really had a frank discussion on what's going on. And there was some, the isolation hotels were happening right at the moment. I remember walking up to the studio and seeing the videos of the mom having her son taken away. And, things have definitely changed since then. But I guess, how is Ken doing so far or now?
It's interesting talking about that, Sean. First of all, appreciate for having again, I don't consider myself a nobody. I just consider myself a member of society. And so I'm certainly not, I'm not going to increase your listenership, let's put it that way. But to the people that know us, I feel like both you and I were quite involved in the community. And it's always nice to hear from community members. So I appreciate you having me on. And I hope I bring some value to you and to your listeners. Now, how am I doing? Is that the question? Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what, Sean? You and I are very busy, extremely busy, actually. And I'm trying to convert my brain into enjoying being busy. So instead of complaining about it, I'm trying to enjoy it because it means that I'm involved. It means that you have value. It means that you're trying to make a difference. So that would be how I am doing. I would say I'm very thankful that we're in the spring. That was a long winter, extremely hot, long winter for a lot of people, me included. Last time we were on here, I had a breakdown, or that was 2 times ago, actually.
That was 2 times ago, yeah.
Part of me, I'd say it was one of my more embarrassing moments of life and one of my proudest moments of life. It was, anyways, so how am I doing with that? That was a lesson to me. I would say that I struggled mentally over the winter. And I've converted that into thinking like I do with physical conditioning or with fight training or with diet. It was a lesson for me. When you're, I can speak for myself, when you're having a few darker days, it's hard to think clearly. It's hard to say, here's the plan out, for me anyways. And then when you're in a better state, it's easy to go, okay, I recognize that. What were the triggers? What happened? What can I learn? What can I make sure I don't do again? How do we, just like fight training, somebody catches you in a choke, right? Or somebody gets you on your back. It's like, okay, sounds good. I got put down. What happened there? What can I do better? How do I fix that for next time? So I guess it was enjoyable in that regard. It's like the Jocko podcast, how was that winter? It was hard and it was good. Right. So I would say that's how I'm doing. Thankfully, I find that life is much easier. For me, life is much more tolerable despite all the chaos when my marriage is in good order. it's just kind of like one of my stabilizers for me. And loving my wife, loving my marriage, loving my home. It's my place of peace. And so with that said, life is good. We're healthy, we're happy, we're fed, and life is good. So there you go.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing. I find that one sentence very interesting. You know, one of your most embarrassing moments, or maybe best moments, is a funny sentence. I just think it showed you were human, and what we were going through. Well, nobody walking this planet has ever been through, our version here in Lloydminster, and there's other versions all across the planet, because the entire planet went into some sort of lockdown, some more, what's the word they use, draconian than others. But I don't know if there was very many states, provinces, territories, countries that didn't go into some form of locking things down. And so now we're into a year of it.
Can I go back on that? The messages that came to me personally after that, Sean, were staggering. In that I received more messages from people than I do on my birthday, of people saying, I've struggled too. Thank you for saying that. And it taught me something, is that we all kind of have this appearance, like I'm sitting with you and you don't have a tear in your eye and you're looking good. That the whole debate on mental health is, I can see your body, like you look good, you're walking good, you got a smile on your face, but I can't get inside your noggin. And so it's it taught me that a lot of people chug, and it's okay to have a chug. It's just, you don't want to get stuck in that, and if you are, then reach out for help and all that kind of stuff. But I want to thank the people for reaching out to me. It was a lot of teary moments for me, actually, when people, I won't ever say a name, those are all private, never be discussed outside of the messages that were sent to me. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to have people share that with me. And then you kind of go, okay, cool. So we're all in this together, and that's just the group on that day that we're feeling the same way. And probably next winter or next year or next month, it's going to be a different group. And what I learned out of that is that life is ups and downs, and don't beat yourself up if you're having a tough day, if you're having a struggle, if you're whatever, depression, whatever it is. It doesn't last forever. Well, I shouldn't say that. For me, it doesn't. And brighter days are ahead. You just got to, and I think what you learned is you got to do something about it too. Like there are factors that come into that, exercise, diet, sleep patterns, that kind of stuff. So take some responsibility on my shoulders of what was going right, kind of like what I'm doing, is saying, what was I doing right? Was I doing wrong? And how do I firm that up? So thanks for that. And thanks to everybody who reached out to me. Those were some really cool personal moments. And I want to thank the people that had the strength to share those stories with me.
Yeah, well, hey, shout out to all you listeners.
Yeah.
That was I don't know, I don't even know what this is going to be. I think you're 168 now. I think that's what comes out on Monday. And in 168 episodes, there's always an episode where people immediately message when it's done, and it doesn't stop for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. And that was one of them, right? Like that one touched a chord, and it was just, well, I don't know. I just call it raw, genuine. You're Kenny. That's why you're back on, Ken, right? Like, I enjoy our conversations. I enjoy where we take them. And I enjoy that I give you a space that you feel like you can open up a little bit, I guess. That's pretty cool to be on this side. Not that I want to dig into everything and have it exposed to everybody, but I'm happy that you think I'm a safe spot, I guess. And that's pretty cool to be sitting on the other side of it. Yeah,
well, cool to have a friend like you. Cool to have somebody like you doing what you're doing, Sean. And from my perspective, you're strengthening yourself, you're strengthening your community, like you've got a good heart on you, in you. And so I enjoy your podcast, and I've never heard anything come out of your mouth that is destructive or wanting to tear down or anything. Quite the opposite. And we're going to get into that some today. So it's an honor to be your friend, and it's an honor to be on your podcast, to be part of that. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I won't pump your tires anymore. When we last, so that brings us all the way to Tanner, yourself, who have War on Weakness podcast, and I sat down and we had this discussion about, like, what do we do? What do we do? What can we do? Where's the line? We had all these things in there, but we just kind of, as I listened to it again, even today, and I'd listened to it when it first came out, the thing that I just found was like, we talked about it, but we didn't really do anything about it. And for the listener, they didn't hear the conversations that we had after. And a big thing I said to Kenny was, I don't want to do that conversation again. Like, I want, by the time we sit down again, I want to have at least prodded a few different conversations, tried a few different things, and like get active about it. Because there's one thing to talk, but then it's another thing to go out and like actively become something that can influence society, so to speak, right? Like, not that this conversation isn't powerful, but if all you do is ever bitch and complain about, you know, what the government's doing or what's happening in town and never take an active role, nothing changes, I guess, is where I'm at, right? And so for the people who listen to it, then they don't, you know, now it's been 2 months. It was February 3rd when we had that last conversation. And I know how busy you've been, right? Like, and I just thought maybe you could distill down some of what you've gone through, the conversations you've been having, and just share with the listener kind of what the last 2 month journey has been for Ken. Because, I mean, you're a guy that has made all these different political meetings. You know, myself, I went to a Wild Rose meeting to see, you know, what they're talking about. Because I'm like, not that I love sitting in a politics meeting, but I'm like, for once, I just kind of feel like I probably should do this. I need to know what's going on and whether or not this is something I'm involved with or like or not. And you're a guy that is outdoing me, in my opinion. And I don't know. I admire how hard you go.
Yeah, you said a lot of things there. I think we could agree, Sean, that this has been a very, very stressful time for many, many people. You know, if I'm an 85-year-old, you know, trapped inside an old folks' home, man, you know, if I'm a youth that's missed my hockey and had lockdowns and all the rest, you know, if I'm a teacher who is, you know, like it's the nurses, you know, the police, the unemployed, this has been it's been a shit show. That's what it's been. People who are sick or have immune disorder or, you know, are in the category that we're finding out are at risk. It just hasn't been an easy road for anybody. And we kind of sat here and probably you and I, probably why we're good friends actually, one of them is it's okay to sit around and bitch for a while. You know, okay, feel sorry for yourself, talk about how hard it is, how much everything sucks. But my belief, and I think your belief is, you know, I think you got to have hope and you got to try, you got to do something. Sure, if you pick it up and you try to have a change and you fail, at least you tried, you know. And I think back, you and I convert so many things into sports. You know, if you think you compare and contrast hockey teams, like I've had a very negative hockey coach in the past. You know, coming between periods, you guys suck. Nobody's working. I can't believe it's an embarrassment to coach you guys. You know, throwing hockey sticks around the room just deflates the room, right? And then when somebody comes in and has a pump up message with some hope and some drive. You know, I'm not saying they're all rosy pictures. There's never time for the negative message, but humans' hearts get for mine. I get a skip in my step when somebody goes, you know what? There's a plan out of this. We got a chance. Like all we need to do is these three things, and we can do this. And to me, that's kind of where we've come a little bit. Is saying like you to talking about you and I in our conversations. Is okay. It is what it is. It sucks. It's been shitty. We've had a lot of tough go at this. What can we do? Right? And I think that's a healthier place to be, at least for my mind. Maybe how about yours, Sean? Like we'll get into what we're doing, but
yeah, no.
Would you agree?
Well, I tell, like if I rewind the clock, up until COVID started, I'd only done one video interview, so one distance, and that was Paul Bissonnette, right? Like, I mean, I told myself I wasn't going to do that, but for him, I'm like, I'll break my rule, right? Now what do? Right? Like probably 75% of them, maybe more than that, maybe 90% of them now are through the computer, through technology, which has opened up doors everywhere. But I learned very, very quickly when COVID shutdowns, lockdowns started happening, I'm like, I don't function well when I'm not, you know, there's a balance. We talk about the balance all the time. You can feel when the balance gets out of whack, but when I'm not moving, then, you know, I just, you know, now I'm like, and I'm getting on everybody's nerves. I'm getting on kids' nerves, getting on the wife's nerves. And it's like, sure, did they want you home every night? Yeah. But they actually, you know, then you're home every night. And they're like, you could probably, you know, go and, because I like to, you know, like,
Yeah.
I like to be a part of things. I want to do things. I'm relatively physically fit. I got a healthy mind. My health is with me. I love being active. I think we have a great community, and I see some shortfalls, and I want to bring us all together. I don't know. I know that sounds kumbaya. I say that like, I don't mean like we're all locked in arms, but I just think the world tries over and over and over again to not get us to talk to one another and report all the bad, so that you think stepping out your front door is going to be this horrendous experience and there's so much bad everywhere. And it's like, the truth is, if you step out your door, you might run into a Ken Rutherford. And until you do that, you never know who you're going to meet. And so for me, being busy, I've changed my mentality on it. It's like, there is a balance, but I want to be, because if I'm busy, it means I'm probably doing some good.
Yeah. And are you finding that, I try not to get too hokey pokey, because there's those weird, what you want from the universe, it'll throw back. I don't know about those sayings, but what I am noticing is that when you take a little bit of a risk, when you have some hope, when you have some try, just the connections start happening. And it's like, you can feel the momentum growing, at least for me, like, when I look at you as well, it's just things happen. People come talk to you, people want to do something. You volunteer at this place, just the ball starts rolling. It seems to start with the mind, so if your mind is positive and you say, this is where I want to go, the universe kind of seems to meet you there. And if you want to say life sucks and this is terrible, and the universe will meet you there, so if you want to, I think we've all had days like that. I can say there's times where we're going through this, I'm like, why do I do anything? Like, why don't I just go home, just, grab a half sack of beer every night on the way home, kind of numb the brain, kind of, disappear from the world and just grab another Netflix binge, like that just seems like an easier mental journey, but it doesn't fit me. And I don't think that's healthy. So I guess, where do we start, John? I guess maybe we'll just talk for a while before.
I was gonna, as I search my notes here, I wrote down you were talking about, not getting too hokey pokey. Well, I agree, right? Like, I don't want to, but I wrote down a quote, and I didn't wrote, I was listening to, I want to say Carl Jung at the time, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't out of his book, but it said, what comes out of your mouth comes into your life. And what you're talking about is if you want to talk about the world sucks, you're going to, it's already, right? Mm-hmm. It's already in your mind. It's already coming out your mouth. It's everything. It's why I fight that all the time. It's like, yeah, it's not great. It's not terrible right now, right? There's good things. There's tons of good people. We just have to find a way to, maximize that, right? And I don't know, like, I bring it back to, I really wanted to know, you've been maybe the most busy person I've ever seen in a 2-month span, because what we left with was, I'm not going to interview Ken again until I've done some things. And so for me, it was interviewing Danielle Smith. It was interviewing Ben Aquay.
Those were both good interviews, by the way.
And another guy I wanted to interview was Heath McDonald, which I know isn't the academia world. He isn't politics, but he's a business owner from town that I really respect. And there were different conversations around similar things. And I just wanted to, start to like broaden my narrative instead of just talking to the same person and having the same conversation and over and over and over again, right? And on top of that, I went to a Wild Rose meeting, and it didn't blow my socks off. That's not to bombard the Wild Rose Party. I think they are speaking to an audience that is feeling unheard. And if they do it properly, I think they can attract a ton of people to them. I think it could be like overwhelming support. It's just they got to find a way to get their voice heard, the message across right, and talk to everybody who's sitting in all these different places that are all saying the same bloody thing, right? Everybody's saying the same thing. And that is, they're tired of the lockdowns. And as far as the Wild Rose go, they don't want to split the vote, right? We've been down this road before, right? You just got to go to Danielle Smith, who was on, and remember her walking across. And that's way too fresh in a lot of people's minds. So they got to figure out, you always say, let's make everybody on this together. Everybody stands for freedoms, right? It's nice. That's what we are. Don't worry about all the other chaff. It's just freedoms. That's what we're all here for. And as time goes on, it feels like more of them more get pulled away. And so over a 2-month span, I've been trying really hard to decide whether politics is a road. I think me and you have talked lots on like politics, whether you like it or not, is how things change in our country. That's democracy. Now, there's 2 ways to get into politics. There's the career politician. You start tomorrow and you slug it out and hope that what you say attracts following and whatever else. I can just imagine, what you got to do to get to the top. Or there's the Donald Trump way, right? They both get to the same goal. They're just 2 different, a fork in the road, so to speak. One way you're going left, one way you're going right, with the mind of eventually meeting back up to be, a leader of a country.
Well, the maybe I'll just tell you my mental journey as we went through. I started doing some thinking about, I think lots of times for myself, it's like a knee jerk. It's like, when the lockdown started coming out, I started thinking like, holy smokes, like, where are we going? Is it time to get out of this country? We're some of the panic. And I'm not sure if maybe that's caused whenever there's mass change that the human just kind of gets a little bit, strung out a little bit. But I guess my journey kind of went like this recently is, okay, let's just pause and let's think about this for a moment. I started thinking, I won't say any names, but I've heard stories of, a husband and wife struggling because one of them has, an illness, and the other one's sick and tired of being home, is saying, I'm going out and living. I can't stand being in my basement anymore. And the other one thinks that that's selfish because the other spouse wants to get out, and how dare you risk bringing in an illness that's going to kill me. And I honestly cry in my heart when I hear that, because that we hear about divorce rates and that coming out of this, right? And then I've heard another story, I won't say names, of very good friends who one is on one side of a vaccination debate and one's on the other side, and to my understanding, they don't talking anymore, and it seems like we're in a period of time right now where we're finding things to disagree about, and argue about, and go to the extremes, and I think we need to focus on the common overlap. What do we agree on? Let's not talk about what we disagree on. Let's talk about what we do agree on. I think that's what we need to do. So as a community, like, what do we care about? We care about our kids. Yeah, we all care about our kids. Do we care about the mental health of the community? Yeah, we care about the mental health community. Do we care about the economic stability of families and be able to pay their mortgage and put food in their... Yeah, we agree on that. Personal rights and freedoms, charter rights and freedoms. Do we agree that it's good to be able to visit and talk and go to church? Yeah, we agree on that. So I think there's going to be a lot more that we agree on than disagree on. So then my brain goes, okay, so I can't let my brain get into one of those extreme camps. I can't. Because if we get into a specific debate on masks or on vaccinations, I don't judge anybody for either side of it. Again, I've got another story. I won't give names, but I've got a family member who does have an illness, and they do take it very seriously. They mask. They clean up their hands with alcohol. They're full on for vaccinations, and I get it. Everybody's got their own personal story. I think it's why somebody else chooses to mask or not mask or to vaccinate. Let people make their own decision. Don't judge them. They're not sheeple. Everybody's got their own story, and so I think we've got to accept people for their positions and what is right for them. So then I started thinking about a lot of people I talk to, Sean, and I'm talking like a lot of people. Again, I won't say names. Is like, what are you thinking? A lot of people are like, we're looking at getting out of the country. That's not an uncommon statement right now. It crossed my mind, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Let's just breathe. Let's just breathe for a moment, right? Let's roll through this for a minute here. I believe Canada is one of the best countries on earth. I believe in Alberta, Saskatchewan being 2 of the best provinces in the country. I know everybody's going to think that. It's my bias. I get it. This community of Lloydminster, I believe it's one of the best communities in Canada. Look what we can do with fundraising. Look at how many strong, good people there are. And then I started thinking, Ken, shame on you for one of your first tests as a member of your community and as your country. You want to run? Really? Is that all you got in you? There's people that have died for this country. There's people that put this place together with their blood, sweat, and tears and lived in a shack with some mud packed in between it. We got the First Nations that figured out how to live off the land. We got a beautiful country. And the first time it gets a little hard, you want to run. Okay. Well, is that the story you want told for your life, Ken? Is when you're 85, remember when it got hard then and we ran? No, that's not. So you got to fight first. You got to fight first. And it's worth fighting for. So that's kind of where my brain went. I went, okay, well, how do we do those things? So now that leads into some of the things we're going to talk about. So being busy, yeah, I'm like, the fact is it's going to be hard. We're going to have to do some work. So what do we do? Well, which one do you want to chat about first, Sean? Do you want to talk? You started leading into the politics thing, so maybe we could talk about that. Sure.
Well, I think if people don't listen to the War on Weakness, or it's been quietly done in the back rooms or across town, and I just think of the amount of conversations you've had with people and just trying to figure out where everybody's at. Maybe, me and you have said this before, like maybe I'm just the crazy one. And I go, nope. Like I've talked to probably 20 people, they're all feeling the same way. And I'm going, okay, so if 20 people are all feeling the same way, why are we all hiding away, just waiting, right? And I know you're a guy that's, branched. So I said Wild Rose because, I'm Albertan. They're an Alberta party. They're looking to run. I'm like, wow, I've got to go see, right? Like, to me, why wouldn't you now? Actually, as I start to open my eyes to things, another party that you've been around is the Maverick Party, and I know a lot of people have talked about that, especially in the rural communities. And I thought maybe you could share a little bit about that experience so far.
Sure. Like, let's go back to the coffees. I do have deep concerns for our society. I do have deep concerns for our youth and our children. I do have deep concerns for where this possibly could be heading. And out of my style isn't to go out and argue, fight. I fight train. So I would rather, I look at like our police and our nurses and our teachers and our welders and our truckers, but you have a conversation with pretty much anybody in the community. I know we've got bad people in the community, but pretty much everybody in the community that I talk to, these are good people. These are good people. And maybe we disagree, but let's sweep those disagreements away for a minute. They're good people that care. So I've had a lot of coffees, a lot of discussions, quietly. And that's kind of my style. Just like, where are you at? Where are we at? What's your worry about the community? What do you think about? And one thing that's come to me is that I do believe humans are a herd animal. I think we find safety in numbers. And it's something that I was trying to find an academic term or a study, and maybe it's good that I couldn't find it. But what I've noticed is that, do people want kids to be able to play hockey next year? I believe the majority of people do. Do people want our seniors that are locked up in their rooms to be able to visit with their families? And if it's time for them to die, to be able to do it with their family members in their room with them, holding their hands? I believe the majority of people do. But what I do notice is that not a lot of people want to stand up and stick their head out of the hole. The common statement is, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose customers for my business. I don't want to upset my neighbor. And so it's like this, everybody's got their thing, but we're all kind of on our own little islands and nobody wants to say anything. So, but we're all kind of like, our community's hurting, and we'll talk a little bit about us, our children, our youth. There's various members. There's people that are missing surgeries. There's people that should have had a cancer diagnosis that didn't go. We know the opioid death. I've talked this many times. I think that we're going to be embarrassed of how we handled this when we come out of this. 10 years from now, when the emotions are gone and it's just statistics now, I think we're going to be embarrassed. I'll bet somebody heavily we will be. I'm not an expert on everything, that's for sure. And maybe I'm wrong. But, and so I'm wondering is that, folks, it's on our shoulders. I believe we can't blame the politicians here. You and I have talked about this. I believe politicians are a reflection of us. We vote for people that reflect what we want. We put forward leaders that reflect who we are. So if we're letting down a lot of people in our society right now and everybody's too scared to put their head up and say, we got to do something, maybe we're getting what we deserve, but maybe we can choose to be different moving forward. Maybe it's time to be brave. Maybe it's time to take a risk. Maybe it's time to come together and say, I'm okay if I lose my job. If I know my community's hurting, I got to stick my head up. Nothing I want to do or say is to hurt anybody. It's not in my DNA usually. Like, the hockey and the right. But I care deeply about humans. And I wonder if it's not on all of our shoulders, to people who are listening to this, to say, when you're 85 years old, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as the person who played it safe, took care of your own skin, kept quiet when you knew that there was harm and hurt in your community? Or should we come together and just have an open debate? Like the good things come. Like I want to encourage people, gather with like-minded people and talk and debate and argue and call each other out. Like our book club has proven to be a very, very special part of us. And it allows me to not sit in my basement and go crazy, right? It's like you can think about things better when you're in a group. And so now politically.
Well, to hop in there quickly, it's one of the reasons why I put a lot of value in what you say, Ken. Because how many times have we had the debate on, I don't know, like COVID, lockdowns, vaccines? You just go down the list. Me and you've had it out, not had it out, but like a healthy discussion on it, to the point where I've forced you to get better at how you talk about it, because I know I'm just like, well, what about this? Or I don't believe in that. And you're like, well, I better go check into that. And then you come back. And that's exactly what you do, because I know how much research and time you've spent on all this. That's why the 2-month kind of check-in, right, since we last sat down, I've been really curious, right? Because as much as we talk, I don't get to hear about everything. And certainly when we chat, we're down a rabbit hole, just no different than this is a rabbit hole.
Okay.
And when you say, like, you're imploring everybody to be like, we need to do something. Well, in one of our, one of my conversations, quiet conversations, one of the things is like, guys, it is April. By the time this comes out, it's going to be like April 26th. Pretty sure they're about to release, draw back on masks. They're going to draw back on gatherings, so people can go out and gather. And it's the summertime, and everybody's going to go do it anyways. What are we worried about? Right? Like, what are we worried about, Ken? Like, what are we going to group together to do? We're through the worst of it.
I hope so. I guess my thought is that it's maybe a really exciting time. I know we're kind of all over the place here, and people are like, just, would you get into what you're doing? Right? And,
but this is what we're doing.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
We've literally talked this through how many times,
right? Gosh, like gone around 1,000 times. And it's a little bit of a struggle because you can't meet. You can't go to church. You can't, have go to speakers. You can't, I'm not even supposed to have my mom and dad into my home, right? Like, can't even talk to them, right? So how are you supposed to talk? Well, I don't know, right? Obviously, we can meet in coffee houses, right? Because I don't know, whatever.
Listen, I don't.
But anyways,
I don't hide behind it. I find one of the things that COVID has taught me is people in the back rooms, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. In a group of 10 people, they're all going to say relatively the same thing. There's going to be the one that there's always going to be the extremes, but for the most part, you get a group of like-minded guys together. They're all going to be like, yeah, this is BS, don't like it, whatever. But when the cards start to go, 9 of the 10, maybe 10 of the 10, all are abiding by 2-week quarantine or abiding by, if it's a variant now and it's 24-day, they're going to abide by it. Oh, well, I got this. And my thing is what I've really struggled with is like, you literally just said that you thought it was all BS. But now it's just like, no, it's real. And so to me, I understand choose your words very carefully, because it's like, if you're going to say something and you don't follow through with what you say, even if it's as simply as like, I don't believe in masks, then you shouldn't wear a mask anywhere. And you should be okay with the consequences of not doing that, because that's what you believe. And as soon as you start saying something, but then not following through it, now you're telling yourself a different story. And that is a dangerous thing, I think, right? Like, we're all powerful behind closed doors, but as soon as we get in front of a mic or in front of people or in front of a, police officer, if we don't firmly believe in our stance, Heath McDonald, if you believe in something, stand behind it. Those words ring. I'm like,
Yeah,
Huh.
those are good words.
They're good words.
Yeah. The as I was preparing for this chat with you, again, I'm sorry I didn't have a chance, and maybe it's good again not to look up, a theory or a philosophy on it. But I'm kind of imagining myself like this is, like these masks. There's a whole debate on which ones work and don't work, and half the people got them on their chin or don't wear them or they're dirty or they haven't washed them in the last 30 days or, it's kind of like. But then you can take them off and you can sit 5 feet from each other in a coffee house and you're okay. Like it's just a lot of, we're all kind of looking at each other and I don't know if I believe this, but sure. And I kind of envision that, let's get out of the mask debate for a moment. It's kind of like humans. We must have a programming in us that even though I know there's danger in walking that way, as long as I'm walking with another 1,000 people, I'm like, well, we might as well just keep walking there. I just seen a video the other day of water buffalo crossing a river in Africa. And, the first 4 went. Well, after the first one, there must have been 10,000. I don't know, 5,000. It was just, I've never seen or heard that big. I don't know how many were there, but they're all just like, looks like we're going that way. We're going for broke. And I kind of wonder if us humans are kind of the same, to where we're like, well, everybody seems to be dropping off in front of me, but whatever, I guess as everybody's walking this direction, the herd must know, and so there's probably, and maybe that's in us, Sean. So we can gather and be compliant and live in peace, so that whatever the group does, we'll just kind of do. Maybe it's a good thing for stability of society, but I wonder if sometime it can't lead us to jump off a cliff, because everybody did it. Does that make sense to you? Is that a bad analogy?
No, it's not a bad analogy at all. I think probably 99% of the time, it's for the most part a good thing, right?
Probably helps us a lot of the time. Yeah,
sure. You put just do a sanitarium. God, I can't think of the word.
I like them both. They both work for me.
But I was listening to your Dr. Shiva, and he said probably the most impactful people on the entire world have been plumbers and garbage people, right?
Right.
Whether the world wants to sanitation.
Yeah.
Whether the people want to believe that or not,
Yeah.
and they think doctors and scientists and everything are more important. It's like, well, no, actually, it turns out getting your shit away from your drinking water and where you live is a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, not living in filth is a really big thing, right? And so, yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you all walk different ways, it'd probably be hard to get people to fall in line, right, on certain things that are really beneficial to all of society. And the people right now on the COVID side are going to argue, just follow the rules. Like, there's still people that are, no, just follow the rules. Well, we'll get through this. Mm-hmm. Even if it's another year, we'll get through this. Just follow the rules. And at the start, I was like that. I was like, I'm just going to follow the rules. Like, I'm not going to stick my head up, just take care of my family and everything. But the problem is, the longer it goes, the more you just see the hypocrisy, and the more people you start to listen to that are very smart but are walking the opposite direction of the entire society. And you're like, well, why are they doing that? And then you listen to them and you're like, that's actually a really smart point. Dr. Shiva is one of them. You just introduced me to him. I don't know why I fought it with you. I know better than to fight Ken Rutherford. If he's talking highly about something, it's probably about time I just sat down and listened to it and seen for myself. And Dr. Shiva, I've listened to a bunch of them now. And he's a guy who goes against mainstream media, against all the thoughts around the immune system and COVID-19 and getting vaccinated and everything else. And once again, we're getting into the mud of we're not trying to argue that. It's just, you're mentioning, are we a herd? Yeah, absolutely. Like, just look at what we all do. Within 3-week period, everybody was wearing masks. And it just took enough of a push from the government that we all started doing it. Like, it must be a really, really, really interesting job, or maybe feeling, to have that much power, to be at the very top and to be like, listen, me and Ken are in a room, do mass work, and we've had this conversation lots. I don't know why it always comes back to mass. It's the most visible.
Yeah.
And it's the most visible to see that everybody's doing it. You got two sides that are really smart. One saying you absolutely need to. One side saying you absolutely don't need to. The other side's completely wrong, and they argue. So now me and Ken are sitting in a room, and we're the leaders. It's like, well, you're catching flack if you don't make people wear it, because it's not like one, one country did it and 99 didn't. But you're going to catch flack if you do it because the other side's going to be unhappy. But the ability to just, that's what we're doing. And then to have, what's Canada? 30,
is it 34 million? 34 million? 35 million? I don't know.
Just under 40 million, but
yeah, sure.
Somewhere in there. In the 30s of millions of people,
30s,
all of a sudden just everybody falls in line wearing masks. Like, what a feeling that must be.
Yeah, I make the error of, I'm trying to correct my own compass. I make the error of assuming that the majority of people are good people that just want the best for others. It's kind of maybe what I have in my head. But like, let's take Doug Ford for a moment. Like he put Ontario on strict lockdown. Like you got to call that pretty close to being a police state. Like if I think about a continuum.
Well,
right?
Can you back it up?
Yep.
For people, because I had to explain to my wife, I think maybe you should just give a few details on what Doug Ford empowered his police and everything else to do in what was that, like a week stretch?
A week ago.
Yeah.
Like so maybe we'll back up for a sec. Dr. Shiva, if you listen to his stuff, in the end he becomes a little bit political, and because I think he ran for office, and so some of his later stuff I'm like, easy on the politics, But if you go back to, he's an academic. He's got multiple degrees. MIT. He teaches, I think, in the med school at MIT, and he breaks it down exactly according to him how the immune system works, and it's a complex beast, as everything in the human body on this earth is. So if I'm not saying he's 100% right. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know, but I know he made me go, that's pretty deep. It's because of Dr. Shiva that we all this winter we've been taking zinc, we've been taking vitamin D, we've been taking we put a few drops in our smoothie every morning. But because of him, because he explained how the cell walls work and how this works and how that works. And yeah, but anyways, everybody else can listen out on their own. I purposely don't get too detailed right now into the daily COVID updates and the restrictions and what the laws are. I'm just kind of getting the general gist of it because it stresses me out. It causes me mental stress, and I kind of want to fight or puke or get mad or but my understanding on Doug Ford is he clamped down hard. He was like, you people, this is my perspective on it. I could be wrong. He said, you don't want to listen? We're going to come down hard on you. You people are doing this, and I am the ruler, and you will listen.
Well, Kenny, they had police at the access from Manitoba into Ontario sitting on the highway.
Yep.
They gave special, I don't know, are we calling it powers to cops to pull over anyone they wanted to, including people walking. You had to be so far away from your home if it wasn't out for work purposes or, it was like, oh, wow. Like, and that's, Vance Crowe, a guy that I'm in his book club, he messaged me immediately, me and Quick Dick actually, and was like, is this real? Right? And we're like, yeah. And he's like right now in St. Louis, it feels like COVID isn't even real anymore. And he's watching that. And I know the United States, I say this, once again, who cares what your belief on vaccination is? Once vaccinations hits so far, you're going to start to see things loosen off.
It's a theory, yeah.
And in the States, that's what's happening, right? As more people are vaccinated, it's starting to loosen. But Vance was one guy who texted immediately and was like, is this actually happening? I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't even know what to say, right? Like, I don't think it'll ever happen in the West, but I never thought it would be happening in Canada, and there it is in Ontario.
Yeah, we got to remember, what was that show? Like you always talked about, like Jurassic Park, and we've read Jordan Peterson on was it Pinocchio? What was the show where the guy puts the ring on? Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Remember when he puts on the ring and he turns into that demon-looking evil, and maybe the saying absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think there's a lot of weight to that. And so maybe, Sean, if you're the premier of one province, I'm the other one, and we're given, you just do what you need to do to make the people do what you think they need to do, we might be putting on a ring, right? And that's kind of how it appears to me to Doug Ford. I'm sure these politicians, we know there's politicians in our area. These aren't evil people. They don't set out to, maybe some of them do, but I don't know. But Doug Ford, this Charter Rights and Freedoms, we either got to say it's valuable or let's flush it in the toilet. Right, really. Let's be bluntly honest here. Let's get out of this.
Well, you bring up the Charter Rights and Freedoms. So I wrote down what stuck out to me. Yeah. If you want to read it all.
Well, the one Doug Ford, for example, he says, I think he gave police power to stop anybody and question them anywhere as to where they're going, and gave them increased police powers. Well, I kind of flip open this weird document called Canadian Charter Rights and Freedoms. Apparently, it might have been important at one point in time. Everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search and seizure. Well, Doug Ford flushes that in the toilet.
Yeah.
Because the king has spoken. Well, did you see that video I sent you this morning? The police forces look like they're like, "Okay, this is even getting unpalatable by our standard. You know, we're supposed to be the police." He's crying. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Okay, sure. You flushed the Charter of Rights and Freedoms down the toilet. Now you want us to forgive you? I'm sorry. You know, to me, I don't trust you anymore. And maybe that's something that's come out of this for me, is a lack of trust of a lot of people that are in power. You know, and maybe it's time for us normal people. Maybe it's time for a mechanic to become our MLA. Maybe it's time for a truck driver to become our premier. Enough of this career politician stuff.
Well, you said last episode, it's selfish if we only look after ourselves. And then you said the government is us. We are the government, you and I. And if this is true, then the onus is on us to do what is right. And I'm curious, you know, we haven't got to the Maverick Party. Like, I keep kind of like spinning around. We get pulled off. You've been a guy that I look at, Kenny, and I've told you this behind scenes multiple times. I think everything you say, I think you'd be a great politician. I think you would. Now, that doesn't mean it pays well. It doesn't mean maybe it's crappy office hours and you're not around your family as much as you want to be. It doesn't. I don't know all the inner workings of that. But when you talk about, you know, when you're 85 and you look at your children and they go, "What was it like, Dad?" "Well, I did X." Have you figured out what X is? Are you going to be a politician? Are you going to, has Mavericks convinced you? Has Wild Rose, I don't know, you probably can't do Wild Rose, but you know what I mean. Has anything convinced you that way? Have you figured out what your X is?
I got to say, my initial reaction is, I think you'd make a good politician. I know you mean it well because of my own internal belief system. It's like, I think you'd make a great used car salesman.
No, okay. Well, then let's rewind that back.
No, I know you don't.
No. What I mean is, you're a guy I look at where I respect everything you do, and that's what I want out of a politician. So what I mean is if you put your name on the ballot tomorrow, I can, like, immediately, I'm voting for Ken Rutherford. And I think in our area, particularly, I think I'm not the only one like that. I think there's probably thousands of people that would be like, "Duh." And in my short experience of paying attention to politics, I've found very few people that I would be like, "Who? Ken Rutherford is running?" Oh, like, immediately. And that's no knock on all politicians. I haven't been around politics enough. In working with you and the things that mean a lot to you in your talks about freedom and like we need to get the Constitution back, or the Charter of Rights and Freedom, sorry. Like, to me, I'm like, I get all that. And the way you talk about it and the way you conduct yourself, that's what I want out of a politician. That's what I want. I want that.
So I thank you for saying that, Sean. And I would think the exact same thing of you as I would of many members in our community.
Yes,
you
true.
know, and something that's come to my brain.
Well, and I mean, yes, true about other members.
No,
I don't
you
think
too.
I'd be. No. We're not going to try and shoehorn Sean into, "Hey, yeah, you'd be good. You talk."
Well, you would, but let's. Somebody said it in one of the meetings I was in, you know, and my brain was here too. I'm a Saskatchewan guy, and so he's like, we're sitting here waiting for some
yes, we are.
knight in shining armor to ride in, and Brad Wall's going to come save us, or Brett Wilson, or Stephen Harper's going to come back. They're not here. Folks, they're not coming. Maybe they won't ever come. Maybe they're great people. Maybe they got every reason. They got grandkids, or they got their own issues. That's okay. But maybe this is wonderful. Normal people got to look at each other and say, it's time to run for everything, not just MLAs. The issue it's coming apparent to me that politics are very important. You know, I used to look at them like, yeah, whatever, just do your thing, take some taxes.
Well, when times are good.
Tell me when to vote. I'll go vote. Oh, I'll talk about it a couple over a beer on a Friday night to what I think of this policy or that policy, but I just don't want to be involved in it. But it came to me is that we've got to get involved in everything. We've got to get involved in our school boards. We've got to get involved in our municipal politics. If you believe in something, run. You have to. This whole day of where we just sat on our own and took care of ourselves, went for a day's work and you know, went to Mexico once a year, might be behind us. And that's maybe a great thing. It's maybe time for us all. I don't know. All I know is I'm getting involved and I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna be a part of something. And my theory on all this right now is that, have I got involved with Maverick Party? Yes, I have. And I don't care who it is. I want the best person to run. I want the best person who represents our values to run. And so Maverick Party is, maybe I've just joined. I did. I'm on the electoral district EDA, the board for the Saskatchewan area on the Saskatchewan side of things here. And I'm not for separation at this point. I think that's maybe a marketing issue for these parties. Wild Rose Party on the Alberta side, Buffalo on the Saskatchewan, and Maverick Party. I think I was in error thinking that a lot of them were like, oh, we're separating. Like, you vote for them and they win. We're out. And it's just too issue. I was leery to vote for them or put my support behind them because I'm like, we got a lot of things to work out. Like, how about anybody talk to the First Nations? Because I think they have a say in this. What about police? What about debt? What about a money supply? What about we don't touch ocean. So how are we going to get our, and I find a lot of people say, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We can't move product. Shut your mouth. Well, unless it's like, Jordan Peterson. A lot of people hate Jordan Peterson. Did you read the book? No. Okay. Sounds good. Let's just talk about something else then. Because until you've jumped into this, it's not worth our time. So these are deep, deep topics. And what I'm finding is that what I am for is autonomy. I am for sure for that. I believe that Canada's too big. We're too diverse. We should have more say at our local levels. And I think, did I mention this to you? Like when I was coaching senior hockey, when you were playing, every time, I don't know if I told you this, but every time we'd sing the Canadian anthem, I'd look at the Canadian flag and I sang every word, because what I noticed is less and less people are singing the Canadian anthem. It's like just something to get through. I was like, I'm the next, my grandfather fought in the World War, and I won't be that generation that quit singing the national anthem. And every time I'd get a tear well up my eye, because I'd think about what went on into that flag. And I thought, I'm a Canadian first, but I am for autonomy. Because the politicians chase votes, and Ontario, Quebec have the mass amounts of our seats. And I think, and what I'm learning is that's the obvious. And I'm finding, in my opinion, that it's okay to be different. Like, instead of being mad at Quebec, let's celebrate it. They're different. That's okay. The Maritimes are different. That's okay. BC is different. That's okay. And we're different here in Saskatchewan, Alberta. We're just different, I think, and that's okay. You're from a big family. Some of my brothers and sisters love to live in cities. Some don't. Some like to hunt. Some don't. Some like to, and it's okay. We don't have to hate each other. So I'm for autonomy. And that's what all these parties are aiming for first, is more rights and more say over their local affairs. Like, for example, Wild Rose Party, although I can't vote for them because I'm not an Alberta resident, just go to their website. Here's their mission. They want to affirm all individual rights and freedoms. I like that. Make that clear to me. That's a big one. This wishy-washiness, of the federal parties, I'm done with them, myself personally. Establish an accountable Alberta police force. I like that. I'm for that. Establish an Alberta revenue agency to collect their own taxes. Let's wrestle some of that out of Ottawa's hands. There was one on, I don't know if they say it here, but on having our own chief firearms officer. I'm tired of the whole, every 3 years, we're going to take all the guns away and we're going to lock them all up and we're going to take what? No. How about we just take care of that ourselves? I don't intend on going to shoot anybody. All my guns are all locked up properly. So I'm for this. Even if we never separate all these things that these parties are standing for, more autonomy, I'm for. When it comes time to decide on whether we want to leave Canada or not, at that point in time, I'm going to have to think, because I don't know right now my vote is no until I know a lot more.
Yeah.
So Maverick Party, yes, I'm involved with, and they have a two-pronged approach. It's not, if you vote Maverick or Wild Rose or Buffalo, you're not separating the following morning. Like, we don't even have a constitution. We trade agreements, money supply. How do we handle the debt? These take look at Britain. It's not like you just leave the following morning. These are long discussions. So to me, I'm voting for them, and I'm putting my hand into a voting. Barring something changing drastically, that is who I plan on voting for, because I want autonomy. Now, political seats, Sean, what's led me there? In Canada, we just got to be honest with each other. Total seats in Canada, 338. Okay, in Canada. Guess how many are in Alberta and Quebec alone?
Alberta and Quebec?
Sorry, Ontario and Quebec.
80 some? No, sorry, you said 300 some.
Out of 338 total.
180 some.
You're getting close, higher.
220?
Yeah, 199. Okay, so Alberta and Saskatchewan combined, guess how many we have?
Oh, God. 45?
You're very close, man. 48. the vote is decided by the time it gets to us. We vote for no purpose, almost, right? So it's like, and if you're a politician, you care about votes. You have to. If we're a federal party, you cannot lobby for the West and in something that isn't in favor with the East, and you will never win. It's just not mathematically possible. I think it's time for us to admit that. It is what it is. Is it perfect? No. Is it okay? I don't know. But it's the rules of the game. And so the Maverick Party is trying to be the Reform Party, in their first version, where it's saying, let's get some MPs to Ottawa and they vote for the West. And when it's a minority government, they can say, listen, we'll side with you on this, but you got to give us something back. So it's kind of like trying to be like Parti Québécois out of Quebec. And we might argue that Parti Québécois has done a pretty good job for Quebec, and maybe we should take a
page out of their book.
And so for now, till I'm seeing different, I like it. And I'll tell you what else I like. You go to these meetings and there is zero people with political experience. These are farmers. These are normal, everyday people, me, and they are taking time out of their lives to put their own gas in their own vehicles, to drive to all these little communities to have, and you go out to these things, it's farmers, it's local entrepreneurs. It's like we're heading into seeding season, right? Farmers shouldn't be taking a day out of their life to come to a political meeting when there isn't even an election called, and they're coming. That tells me something. Grassroots. This is maybe time for us normal, everyday people to say, let's get it out of these career politicians' hands. Let's quit lying to ourselves. Let's take our matters into our own hands. I'm for it. What do you think, Sean?
I think this is why you need to be in politics.
Mm-hmm.
You said whether it's a school board, whether it's X, Y, Z, right? I find it's what motivates you. So do what motivates you, right? So if you're motivated to, you get, let's use a school board or 4-H or something, right? Like you want to make sure that it's ran properly, the best leadership, get involved. That's what you're saying. And when I watch you with all your sheets fanned out and the Ken Rutherford way of like, this is how I attack problems, I watch that and I go like, and to me, that's why I'd love to see you representing people, representing what I want. Because, if you threw me into politics tomorrow, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'll try. I'll sink or swim. I have no idea. But I don't know if I'll ever get to where Kenny is at. Like, I watch what you just did, and I go, and that's why I think you'd be great. Like, I think you'd be great at it. And I think you'd run away with it. I do. But you represent exactly the type of person I want to see talking. And you never know. Like, maybe there's lots of people that are like Ken, and they get in there, and it changes them. But I go, no, I know Ken pretty good, and I don't think it's going to change him. I think he's going to speak his mind, and if that doesn't work, then maybe we are too far down this road, and there's no way to change it. But you can't ask people that aren't into politics to be like, you should go run for politics. It's like, no, that probably won't work either, because, just representation, but a crappy representation. We've all dealt with the person that, man, but we've all had that same person that's really good at something, and they're using their skills, and you're like, actually, they're pretty good at that. Like, they're actually pretty good at that.
Yeah, so like when you say you could be that, no, you're the exact same, Sean. I've done many things with you, and when you go, you get into it. But let me throw this at you. I got pulled into I don't even know how I got a ticket into this. It was a quiet meeting with some of the inner brains of the Wild Rose Party, and I was for sure the dumbest person in the room, by far.
Ticket into a secret meeting. I think you're already in the club, Kenny. They must be grooming you.
No, it was an error. It was an error. But my point is that there was some smart people in there. It gave me hope actually to go, oh, there's some brains into this. There's some thought put into this. We might have a brighter future instead of a dimmer future. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying Wild Rose is a savior. I don't know. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're bad. I'm just telling you what I've seen in the room was some passionate people doing the same thing, investing their own time, spending their own money, right? Figuring out how to think their way through this. And the one guy that I won't say any names because I don't know what I'm at liberty to say or not say, but he said, I hope I'm quoting him correctly. There's two characteristics you should have in a politician. Number one is how do you put it? He said it so much better than I would, but to be of good morals. Number two is to be smart. And number one is the most important, and that's the necessary one. Number two is if you can get them both, great. And that said something to me. Is like, so anybody that's listening to this, for me, I think it's time. Oh, you're just a farm wife. No, you're not just a farm wife. If you care and you've got something to say, it's time to stand up, right? I'm just put your name behind this. No, you're not just on anything. It's time for us.
That's true.
It's time for us to take, you don't have to be good at talking. You don't have to have been, might even be better if you were never a politician. So you don't owe anybody any favors. You don't have any, old buddies or old friends. You only, it's time for us to come up and be open, so Sean, something I'm going to say is my primary motivator is that I'm concerned for where we're going. Like, to me, and it's, I don't know, for me to be 100% into something, I need to hear that we got a plan to get off this COVID bandwagon. And to me right now as a society, I don't mean to go back into it for a moment, but I'm just going to jump in for a moment, is that I think right now, like every day we get the COVID update, we get this, there are many hospital beds, there's this, the premiers are locking down. It consumes so much of our time and energy. And one of my biggest motivators is our children. Have 6 of them, oldest of 6. I've coached, I don't know how many athletes I've coached. Lots. I've coached for the last, I don't even know how many years.
You've coached multiple teams
at once. Yeah. And I teach and I'm just so behind our youth. That's our future. We got to take care of those. That's our most precious resource, I think. And there's so much time that we're being, but like, if you don't wear a mask, you're going to kill a grandma. I don't know, maybe. But let me go through some stats here for you. Right now, there's so many other members of our community that we need to worry about in addition to the people that could be harmed by COVID. I'm going to focus on the kids. Somebody else can focus on the homeless and on the opioid addicted, and there's just too much information for me to take it all in. But let me start with this. Our most recent data, because to me, again, like, it's too many feelings about COVID. So I'm like, if I was stuck on an island all by myself and I couldn't talk to anybody, should I be scared of COVID? When I look at this, so this is data updated as of April 21st. I pulled this just from the Alberta website this morning. They have to me, like, are the tests right? Are they wrong? Are people this or people? I don't know. Maybe not. But what I'm just going to go to the best statistics I can find. It's on deaths. It's hard to argue. Did somebody die? Yes or no. It's a binary. It's easy to say they either died or they didn't die. So I'm going to go right to that statistic. When I count the Alberta, what do they say? There's 2,054 people who died with COVID, according to the Alberta website. When I look at that, stripped out the stats, 94% of the people that are in that category are over the age of 60. Okay, so I look at that. I'm like, okay, it's starting to suggest it's age related. I'm cool with that. Now, when I go, they say comorbidities. They list the comorbidities. Comorbidities being cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, dementia, stroke, bad things, liver cirrhosis, serious illnesses. Percent of people who have died with COVID, with one or more of those comorbidities, it's 97.5%. So I go 94% over 60, 97.5 with at least one comorbidity. These are elderly people with an illness that appear to be at most risk. I think we know that. Now, I don't know whether they died from COVID, with COVID, I get you. But now that's our focus as a society. Every dang day we're getting this, how many people got it? How many people in your community have it? What's our hospital count? When are we out of beds? You and I are people that know that there's more to the story than this. But let me ask you, or one other, I've talked about utilitarianism before, where we've got to make decisions that create the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. How many people died of opioid death this last month? Do you know?
Don't know.
I don't know either. Do you know how many people went without food, this last month due to shutdowns or losing businesses or layoffs? Do you know? No, I don't either. We need to focus on more than just this. There's nice stats. Think of how many people are employed to just kick up the stats that I just put out. So the one I'm going to focus on is kids. Let's just go like this. Let's say, I imagine like a room where we've got a giant monitor and we've got like every segment of society, and we kind of keep a running total of who's being helped or hurt by all these decisions. And whatever kicks up the biggest number, whether we agree with it or not, we got to make that decision, right? And we're only focusing on this COVID. Well, I decided to jump in. There's an article from the Toronto Star from December 13th of 2020. So very recent. Okay. The article is called, anybody can Google this, called 4 Million Cries for Help. Calls to Kids Help Phone Soar Amid Pandemic. In the previous year, this Kids Help phone, where you can text it, you can call it if you have any kind of, you're suicidal, you're depressed, anything like that. 2019, they had 1.9 million contacts. In 2020, guess how much it went up to? You want to guess?
5 million.
Yeah, you're close. It's 4 million. 111% increase. These are kids. Calls per day, over 800 calls per day. Imagine being a counselor on the end of that line. You're talking to a 12-year-old who's suicidal. 10 calls per day where the police have to get involved because they're suicidal. These are kids. That 10 people, they have to ask the police to respond because 10 of these kids are like, they think this is the one. Cops, you got to get to 4201 57th Street because there's a child that's suicidal. There's another document called, or another organization called Children Canada First Canada. It's an advocacy group for kids that takes data and reports and says, listen, these are the risks to Canadian children. I'll just rattle these off. And there's a document called Top 10 Threats to Childhood in Canada. According to this, suicide is the second leading cause of death in our youth between 15 and 24. Second leading cause of death, 15 and 24. It's the leading cause of death for children 10 to 14. Highest among First Nations are Inuit and Métis. 57% in the 15 to 7-year-old range rated their mental health as being somewhat worse or much worse compared to time before COVID measures came in. 50% saying I'm worse or much worse from pre-COVID to in COVID. 1/3 of Canadians report COVID has had a moderate or major impact on their financial ability to meet financial obligations and essential needs. One in 7 households has food insecurity post-COVID. Percent of children that are meeting their movement guidelines, physical activity, so that are meeting their movement guidelines on a daily basis. According to this document, 5 to 11-year-old segment, 4.8%. 12 to 17-year-old, 0.8%. These kids aren't moving. They're stuck at home. They're depressed. Not all of them. I get it, but this is data. I went to a data document. Kids are hurting. They're suicidal, and we have an onus. We could claim ignorance. Prior to me reading this, I could claim I didn't know. Now I do. So I'm done with the COVID talk. I get it. The old and the elderly at risk, I care about them. And I care about these children. We can't focus on one. So now there's an onus on me to do something, which is, and whether I like it or not, our laws and our policies are created through politicians. You have to get there. Folks, we gotta influence through our votes, through our advocacy groups, through running for office. If you don't like the statistics I just said, then do something about it. So it's hanging heavy on me. Obviously, I'm choking up as I'm reading it. So that's where I'm at, is if our politicians that are in place today are just going to do the daily COVID count and do another lockdown, that's just the kids. Like somebody else is going to care about the homeless, right? And those with opioid deaths and overdoses. And they're going to choke up as they're reading those. It's too much for me, but I'm on the side of kids and I got to advocate for them and I got to do something. Well, now I've talked a lot. You go.
Well, I don't know what to say to that, Kenny. Like, I didn't know all those stats. How can you unhear that? Mm-hmm. Everybody who just listened to that is going to go, holy shit, right? Like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about the different age groups and the meeting their movement, I'm like, it's going to be low. Like, I'm thinking like, I don't know, 10%. It is 0 point whatever you said. I'm like, oh my God. Like, that should shock everyone who just heard that. That just I don't know what to say to that. All I know is it's why I've been fueling, as much as you got to surround yourself with people that care for you, right? And have your best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. And so I see how you react to this. So I fuel your fire because I'm like, you can't have, if I go back to when we started the podcast, if you would have said, it's an okay, whatever idea. You sure, start it over there. But you fueled the fire, and now here's where it is, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I can ever repay that. But when I hear you talk like that, I'm like, I'm in. Mm-hmm. Whatever, let's do something. I don't know what it is. I mean, we haven't brought up the bike trip. I know
Yeah.
it's not getting kids moving, but it was a way to do something that brings our community together around something that needs to be brought. And I don't know how to solve that problem. I don't. I'm like, we need to put pressure on our politicians. We need Ken Rutherford in politics. I'll say it 1,000 times on this thing. Whether or not that happens, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but whether or not that happens is beside the point. What we were saying is change needs to happen. It needs to happen quick. Like, you can't go 5 more years like this and expect that 20 years down the road you're not going to reap what you sow. It's like, we need to find our way out of here. And right now, we're not confident that the people leading are going to do that for us.
Until I hear them talking about more than just COVID restrictions and lockdowns, and we might have to keep everybody in their basement until the new vaccination is out for the newest variant. This is a journey to come off forever. So, Sean, now I'm going to pump your tires. Let's jump off that for a moment.
Well, we can transition to it. We can transition. The thing is so in my 2-month journey, right? Like, in the 2 months since we talked, I went, I'm not going to sit by and do hockey player after hockey player. If anyone's been listening to this podcast, which I got a lovely audience, so I know you all have. But, I mean, at some point you're like, man, is he ever going to get back to, like, hockey players and maybe getting, like, Wayne Gretzky on here? And I made a conscious choice, and I probably should have said it, and maybe I did say it at some point, but I just went, okay, there's more going on here than just the NHL. Let's figure out some things. Let's see if I can figure some things out. So I've really taken a hard right. And that's where Danielle Smith, that's the Bennett Quay, that's all these different conversations, having you and Tanner on. And I just came to the conclusion that, and honestly, like Samir Saeed was part of that, watching Mikey Dubs run 120-some K, and just went, like, we can all tomorrow decide to do something and have an impact on our community, our country, our province, like our area. And so I woke up one day, texted Quick Dick and said, the story goes, I texted him, hey, you should come here. When are you coming to Lloyd? And he goes, well, the highway runs both ways. And I'm like, oh, God. Yeah, road trip to Tufnell. All right. And then road trip, maybe I'll bike. I want to get back into biking. I've been talking about getting back into biking. Maybe I should raise some money. Okay, I'll raise some money. And then I talked to a few people, and you said something that I don't know if you remember this. When I told you, you were like, sometimes you just need to think a little bigger. I'm like, oh, yeah, think a little bigger. All right, okay. That's a dangerous word, but all right, I'll think about that. And so then it went from biking to Quick Dick to now there's a group of us. And it went from that to what are we raising money for to like, and on and on and on. And I gave myself a short window to pull it off. I don't need a year to sit around and try and pull something off. And if it only raised $10, so be it, right? But I'm going to get active because listen, I get bugged all the time, and it looks like you gained a little weight. It's like, yeah, I have. You want to talk about moving around. It's been a year for all of us, group 2, that I haven't been doing. If you're not doing, you're slowly gaining. And so I get it. So I was like, no, I'm gonna do something. I call it my stupid idea, my proof of concept. You've heard the proof of concept 1,000 times. So the idea is to bike to Tufnell, Saskatchewan and back with 10 people and raise money for breakfast programs in schools. So bike for breakfast. I got to give credit to Neki Jamal for coining that. And, I'm happy now that you read off your stats. I'm like, it ain't fixing their movement problem, but it is fixing the problem that I think we need the youth to be strong learners, get smarter, better, learn from our mistakes, and, hopefully follow in our footsteps a little bit.
Yep.
And so by putting money towards our schools, and when I say schools, I got to give credit to Ken Rutherford here, because I was thinking, okay, if we could just do Lloyd and a few surrounding areas, well, that ballooned to 57 kilometers. And I'll try and round it off. That's 16 schools in Lloyd. That's Lloyd Public, Lloyd Catholic. To the south, you have Onion Lake, Paradise Hill, Hillmond.
Or to the north.
To the north, to the north, sorry. Lashburn, Marshall, Neilburg, Marsden, PV, Kid Scotty, Marwayne, Dewberry, Clan Donald. Did I hit them all?
I think you have them all. Yeah. So
like it's 30 some schools, and that is a little bit overwhelming.
Yep.
But I'm like, screw it. If it falls flat on its face, the most that comes out of it is I'm moving again, and that's a good thing. What I think is going to happen is, well, now I got 9 other people moving with me.
Yep.
Rallying
you're
around
a spark.
Rallying around a common thing that is going to do wonders for our schools.
Yep.
And isn't that a way of just like showing everybody in the area, if you're, going back to enlisting people we got to start doing something here. It's like, we do.
Mm.
It doesn't mean you have to run the politics first. I would think it could be a lot of different things that can impact our community or your community.
Yeah, so you reached out to me and to a few others and said, are you busy? Right? It's like, no, not really. Just been kind of sitting around Netflix binging, right? No. And you're like, I got this idea. I want a bike. Do you want to come? I'm like, you bugger. What are you doing? We're raising money for kids' food for schools. The schools have been hit hard. Their budgets have been cut, and there's probably kids going hungry, and I want to do something. Oh, Sean. But I don't even think I left that phone call, and I said, I'm in. You're like, well, babe, you should probably talk to your wife. I'm like, yes, out of respect for her, I should call my wife. And then what did you do? You've got, this group, Neki Jamal, dentist in town, Nigel Dubé, coaches junior A team in town, Natalie Weeb, and Becky Grassel, a couple teachers in Lloyd, Jim Taylor from Grinding Gears, Brad Hoffman from 4th Meridian, Tracy Matthews, and I've got a question mark here. There's one more that you and I gotta meet with here. And then these students. So you gave me the job of calling each of these schools to find out, as long as they have a food program in place and they have a need, we want to partner with them. And we're going to rally the community to help these students. The numbers, by my count, and from the spreadsheet that I did, we're over 10,000 students that are of the Lloyd surrounding area. This is our chance we just rattled off the stats on food insecurity, the households that are lacking food. We got little jiggers there trying to learn on an empty stomach. And you and I both have wives that are teachers. We both know that there's quiet sandwiches and granola bars and apples brought in from these good teachers in this area that just it's coming through our budgets, right? And other households' budgets that it's just quietly feeding. And we know that those needs will be covered by those wonderful teachers in the area, but they're going to be getting covered more and more as these budgets cut. These aren't good times in our area, and government debts are piling up and budgets are being slashed. So this is our chance to do something good. And I'll tell you, it sure feels good, Sean. You've asked me to come on it. And man, is it ever fun. Look at me. I got a smile on my face as I'm talking about it. I can't wait to ride on this bike and making some great friends out. I'd never met Neki Jamal and all these other good people, and now I get to do this. So good on you, Sean. Good on you. It's a spark you've started. Are we okay with saying what our goal is?
Yeah, sure. I think so.
It's a big number. You're the captain. You say it.
Well, we're trying to raise $200,000, right? Like it's a big number. When Neki first, we got bantering around what the need was, it takes your breath away a little bit. You're kind of like, oh, okay. But I don't know. I look at it. I'm going to try and explain that. I've talked this through in my head so many times that I hope I explain it correctly. I got to give he sponsors the podcast. He's been on the podcast. I approached Heath McDonald with it, right? Mm-hmm. And his family. I shouldn't just single out Heath. Like I approached the McDonald's with it. And Heath was like
Crude Master Trucking.
Yeah, Crude Master Trucking, sorry. He was like, well, what's Hillmon's need, right? He's Hillmon. I can take care of, and I pushed on him, and I push on everybody, and you know this, that if you want to go help X, go help X. But you want to come with us, we're going to help the area. And I think it's a really big tip of the cap to the companies that have already signed on. And I got to give a shout out to Neki and Wayside, right? They're another gold sponsor that are coming on this thing. In trusting that the idea is sound, and on top of that, knowing they could walk in and affect their community and choosing to affect all the other communities. Like, it's going to be over, I don't know, like, you donate $100, a huge chunk of that, let's say you donate $100 and you're from Neilburg, let's take. Like 90-some% of that is going everywhere but Neilburg. But in saying that, the same is true if a person from Hillmon donates $100, and if Onion Lake donates $100, and P Hill donates $100. Because I just look at it like everything over at least the last year, if it isn't longer, is trying to pit us against each other.
Yeah.
And it's taking away good people just talking.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this can be more than just raising some money for breakfast programs, but I think it could be a start in that the good people talk. And when good people talk, good things happen. Hell, we know that just by getting 10 of us in, getting on this bike trip, right? Like, just look at how quickly things start to roll. And holy man, geez, like 3 days ago, I thought, is this a dumb idea? And now I'm like, no, it's rolling. But I really hope it's a way that, could you walk in, you're a company from Kid Scotty. Could you walk in tomorrow and solve Kid Scotty's problems? You could. But you come with us, we're going to take care of our area. And I've said this a ton to people. Like, Lloydminster is so much more than Lloydminster. It's not Lloydminster. It's Lloydminster and area. I'm a Hillmont boy. You're a Paradise Hill boy. I still call Lloyd home. And when I lived in Hillmont, I still called Lloyd home. It's a really weird thing.
Yeah.
But Lloyd is on an island. I think it is, right? We're 2 hours away from anywhere, right? And we're this small little thing that, is part Alberta, part Sask. Maybe that's a blessing. Maybe that's a curse. But at the end of the day, we got great people here. And I just look at it like, in 40, June 4th to 6th, we're going. What's that? 40 some days. We're hopping on some bikes, and we're gonna bike in 20K segments
Nonstop.
for 48 hours straight through the night,
Wind,
there
rain,
and back.
morning, night. Sean, like I'm agree with you. The Lloydminster and area, we're one big family, and it's kind of a cool thing. I'm good on you for doing this. Is that it makes us go, you know what? I'm from Paradise Hill, and the people from Kid Scotty, and the people from Onion Lake, people from Lloydminster, we're all in this together. Let's come together. Enough of this division. Let's join together. So thank you for being the spark that got this going. And, it's really your thunder. You've got a good relationship with Heath, and we're aiming for 200,000. And Heath steps up, and are you okay with saying what
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Fire away.
So Heath McDonald steps up and says, I'm in for $25,000. We're in a time of tough oil prices, depressed economy, uneasiness of our future. And you've got people like Heath McDonald stepping up. And now, how many do we have so far at the 25s?
We have two. Wayside has stepped up. So, you got to give and it starts with Wayside, right? If they don't start with that number, I would think, wow, how are we ever? And then they step up. And
so we've had companies already stand up and say, we're in. You're right. The youth is our future. These are our most valuable asset. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm for 25. Sean, we're called Bike for Breakfast. I feel like I'm interviewing you now.
No.
But how do people reach out if they want to get involved with it? And folks, it doesn't have to be 25,000. Some of the most special gifts are that kid that raises $10 with his, selling lemonade on the side of the road. I know you can't right now with COVID, but whether it's $5 or it's $50 or it's $500 or it's $50,000, it's all going to kids' stomachs. So how do people reach out, Sean?
Well, I think probably right now, if you're listening to this, we've got 40-some days. So there's a few things that need to be figured out. We've just set up social media accounts. So bike, the word 4, not the number, Bike for Breakfast on Twitter and Instagram. There will probably be a Facebook page set up. But right now, if you're interested and you want to help or you want to donate, it's interesting in COVID times on how much help we can actually have, right? But just find me on social media and go to the Sean Newman podcast. You can send me a message and we'll see if there's ways they can help. We don't even have it's so early. Like we're working, like some of the names I should mention, right, is Roberge Transport have donated. Fountain Tires stepped up and donated. The Kinsman Club here in town is going to handle the money. So checks are going to be payable to the Kinsman Club. And I got to give a shout out to a longtime listener, Louis Stang. I made one phone call. He's like, we're in, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Called an emergency meeting with the Kinsman, and now they're in. And it's like everybody can understand that sometimes we sit around and we wait. You mentioned waiting for people to do something. It's like, no, let's just go do something.
Yeah.
Let's do some good. And let's get people talking again. And I don't think there's a division between all of our little communities. I just think we're all so narrowly focused right now on just holding on. Let's just hold on and get through this thing. And it's only a few more days. Well, I was there. I thought this was going to end in January. I go back and listen to some of my stuff. I'm like, it's January. Well, here we are, and we're rolling into, June 4th to 6th, and we're unsure of social distancing and everything. So we're approaching this thing like we're going to abide by every rule they put in place so that there's 10 of us think about this, there's going to be 10 of us on a 50-passenger bus, just so we're spread out. We're COVID friendly.
Yeah.
There's going to be no room. We're going to have to
Find
wear
a way.
masks. We're going to find a way. All right,
Yeah.
done. You want us to do that? Sure,
Yeah.
great. You want me to bathe in hand sanitizer? Great. I'm biking there one way or another.
Yeah.
We're gonna do something good for our community, and we're just gonna. I don't know. I told Samir Saeed, him going and playing in the world's longest hockey game and not being an NHL player. I was sitting at lunch with two buddies, and I was just like, he should have trained more. And they both looked at me and went, and I told Samir this, but they both looked at me and went, Sean, you biked across the country and never biked before. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point.
Because you're training as you went.
I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? Right? Get out of our own heads. Let's go do some good and push this thing and see if we can't, take care of our area, our kids, bring some good people together. And I don't know. Yeah, we're I don't know. I keep saying this. I don't like saying the numbers because I'm not trying to toot anyone's horn. I just think it's cool on the companies that have stepped up that we're at $60,000 and we haven't pushed the pedal. Right? The goal is 200,000. Let's get there.
Yeah.
Let's do some good for all of our community, all of our kids. This isn't elementary focused. It's elementary and high school because, I say this all the time. So, wait, you hit high school and you don't have food problems, and somebody goes, "Wow, you should be able to take care of yourself. You're 15, 16." I'm like, yeah. Well, what if you come from nothing? Like, wouldn't it be good to know that the community cares about you too? Like, they're still kids. Like, I look at an 18-year-old and I'm like, yeah, sure, you should be able to get a part-time job, but there's some people that are hurting.
Go get a part-time job and buy your own groceries. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think it's easy to preach from your high horse when you've got a pair of aces in your hand. We were all just a few shakes away from not being born to the family that has their crap together and has the money to buy the food and has some income stability. All of us, like you and I, Sean, like I keep saying this, we're 2 bad shakes away from being, a drug addict, homeless on the street. If I lose my wife and a couple of kids, something happened, I hit a streak of depression. And so I think it's just, folks, there's people out there that are hurting, that need food, whatever. They're kids, we can debate this till we're blue in the face, and they're hungry. Let's just feed them, And I think it's pretty cool, Sean, that it's great that the corporations are stepping up. And I also think, man, if you're a kid out there, you want to help your school, you want to help these kids, offer to cut your neighbor's lawn for $10 and donate that. So you're helping to support your community. You're feeding your fellow student. We all know, we've seen these schools. There's kids that go hungry, and we, as a family or as a community, we can wrap our arms around each other and say, let's take care of the family. So good on you, Sean. Sean, how much time do we have left?
10 minutes.
Can we jump on that for one moment?
Yeah.
Okay, so I won't go too deep into this, but we should mention that I've been talking to a lot of people. We mentioned that earlier, and there's a really fine family from Paradise Valley area named Jason and Tara Davidson. Or sorry, Anderson. I think that was their maiden name. But anyways, a farming family. I'm old enough. I call everybody by their maiden names or their old names. And she's a good person who's got a Facebook group started. It's got close to 1,000 members, I think now, and it's called Stand for Truth and Freedom. And in short, what we've got is a group of parents that are coming together. We're trying to align with like-minded people who want to do something to influence, to be more proactive as opposed to reactive for the good of our community, with peaceful means. Any hateful discussion or there's gonna be, we want to shoot somebody. No, not interested. I can't be a part of that. But what we're trying to find is to put people together to work with our politicians, work with our police, work with our nurses, to find a way to help our community to get off of just the COVID train and focus on we're going to have a youth focus to come out from the kids' perspective on advocating for them, because I don't know about you, but now that we're on this, the variants are coming and we got to wait for this booster and then we got this, I see us losing hockey programs. I see us locking up doors on our arenas. I see competitive athletes that are just going to walk away from sport. I've went over the statistics, kids that hanging out at home, playing PlayStation on their phone, not eating properly. BMI. They talk about BMI index increasing for our youth. Suicides. We want to join with people that want to influence our community in a positive way to say the rest of the world can fall off the COVID train, but we're going to help the youth.
So what is the group called?
It's called Stand for Truth and Freedom. Tara Anderson is who the person that started it. Like I said, there's close to 1,000 members in it. Join it, send Tara a message, and you'll find out more of how to help come together. There's strength in numbers. If we all just hang out in our own house and complain, we're weak. If we come together, we're strong.
And I would say there's strength in knowing you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fact that I take for granted people talk to as many people as, I'm not sitting here saying I am having coffee with everyone because I'm not, but just whether it's phone calls, the amount of podcasting, I work in an oil field. I tour a lot of different places, and very few and far between, like everyone says they're exactly with what you're talking about there. Like I don't hear the opposite message. I think they're looking for a place that has some leadership to direct their energy. If they, whether it's a vote or whether they want to get involved, I think that's probably a good start, because if she's already had, we know Tara. Mm-hmm. If she's already got it started and you're concerned about what's going on, there's a way you can go to something, get involved, and it's our area, right? Like it's right here.
Yeah, for me, I've watched her now. My value system agrees with hers. Like I'm not. A lot of people are saying we should go and riot in the streets. Not my gig, and I don't want to harm my community. I want to help my community. And what if that group jumps to 15,000 members, right? Of people that think alike and say it's time to open up our arenas. It's time to keep our kids in the schools. It's time to advocate for our youth, advocate for these other areas. Now that group can work together to positively influence our community, and now that starts to politicians. Remember, their currency is votes. If you got 15,000 people in that has a voice. That's just the way we're set up, right? If you go and sit with your school board, right, and say, we're concerned for our kids and we're all speaking together. That carries some weight, has a voice. Remember, this is our community. It's not the politicians' community. It's not the school board's community. It's our community, and we should have a say in how our community operates. And we need to come together and have one voice that's kind, caring, understanding, respectful. That's kind of where I want to end up.
I appreciate that. That is where we're gonna hop.
Awesome.
To the final five, though. I gotta have the final five.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let's end on a fun little 5 questions. Shout out to Crude Master, Heath and Tracy, sponsors the podcast since the very beginning. I mean, we've already talked a little bit about Crude Master and the amazing things. It's so easy to partner with a company like Crude Master because they just that phone call. I called Heath in. My phone is.
Yeah, I wasn't sure it was mine or yours.
That was a cool. That was an emotional, couple of phone calls between Heath and his daughter. I get it. You people think, oh, they got the money or they don't or whatever. You just got to look around at the times we're in, and for them to get on board, even more so to believe in what I'm talking about, the group that we've assembled, about what we're going to try and do, to have the trust to do that. Man, that's moving. That it truly is. So. Let's do the final 5.
Give her.
Well, I don't know if I've ever asked you this. It's
No.
the first one. You've been on so many times that I've never asked this, which is crazy to me. But if you could sit down and do this with somebody, like pick their brain, who would you want?
I'm not very good at this. I tend to think too much and then answer. So I'm glad you gave me a little bit of time to think when you were given, because I'm an analyzer, right? And so, but one that jumps to my brain. It's a dark place, but I'd like to sit down with Alexander Solzhenitsyn. We both read the Gulag Archipelago, and I'd love to sit down and go, Alex, could I ride your coattails for a minute? And you just walk around here and see what you're seeing. Does this concern you? Or is it like, nah, you're good. So that's who Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote Gulag Archipelago on Russia.
Man, can you imagine if you could beam him here and just say, hey, what do you think of this?
Like, give us some advice.
Yeah.
A guy that won a Nobel Prize, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Wrote the book and just said he was a firsthand account of when other societies slipped into communism, totalitarianism, and all the harm and horrors. You wanna cry a few times before you go to bed and puke a couple times and have a nightmare or two. Read the book, but that's good because that's reality. So anyways, that's my author or my person.
What's one adventure you want to take on? I call it an adventure, but you're not a guy to sit back and, I don't know, watch life. You're a guy to hop in and enjoy life, I guess is the way I look at it. So what's one of the things you haven't done that you foresee yourself doing? I don't know, you got a lot of years left, but I'm curious, like, what's a thing that Ken goes, I've always wanted to try this. I just never got the courage up, or maybe, I got to wait until the kids are a little older, or is there something that your tickles your fancy, so to speak, that you haven't tried yet?
There'd be two. One was, I almost pulled it off. I bought a crappy motorhome one year. I'd love to travel all of Canada with my family. I'd love to, it's another story for another day. You'd laugh at it, but I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm taking my whole family across Canada. So I went out and I found this motorhome and I was going to load up that summer. And that's another story. I'd like to travel Canada with my family. I'd like to see all the provinces. I love this community. And I have family from Prince Edward Island. My grandpa married my grandma during the war years, and beautiful, beautiful country. And so I'd like to do that. Also, prior to COVID, let's pretend COVID was an issue. I fell in love with a little place down in Yucatan, down close to the Belize border, called Merida and Progreso, and I'd love to take my family down there. Lots of history, the Mayans, and are down in there, and then it's the crater that they think started the Ice Age.
Yeah,
it's just a really cool spot. Lots of history. I'd love to take my family down there and hang out for like 2 months. So that would be two. Travel with my family.
What's one of the best lessons? I know that's a large question, but what's one of the guiding lessons that maybe your parents instilled on you, a mentor, a good friend? It could be multiple things, but is there a lesson that you've learned that's been really impactful on your life?
There's many, as you say. That's a deep question, but one that jumps to my brain. I grew up in small town Saskatchewan, where there's basically white people and First Nations. That's all I knew. Right. And I remember kind of actually being a little bit fearful of other colors of people, other religions, other foods, just because you didn't know. There's a saying that say you fear the unknown. Thankfully, I've had the opportunity prior to COVID to travel a lot. I think I've been in like 22 countries around the world. I think there's only one continent I haven't been on. And one of the things I've learned is that don't fear other cultures, embrace them. Like, you get to go somewhere and walk into a weird temple and they'd invite you to a weird meal, and you get to find out that the way you look at them or bow is like this. Just embrace it. It's cool. Like, the world is a beautiful place. And I found that my fear was unbased, and as opposed to that, it's exciting. It's really, really exciting to just open your brain and go, your way might not be the coolest way, the best way, the only way. Let's just stop and listen and talk and share a meal and tell me about how things work here. That's been one of my best lessons, I would say, is embracing weird, what I used to consider weird, different, unique cultures, meals, temples, ways of interacting.
Hopefully we get to go back to that.
Yeah.
Something you're reading right now.
Well, I just started, as we all have. It was going to be best book, most impactful book, or just reading?
Just reading.
The second Jordan Peterson book.
Yeah.
We've covered 12 Rules. Now we're on Beyond 12 Rules. I can't remember the name of it. The black one.
The black.
Yeah. So I started that. So that's what I'm reading right now. People don't listen.
Beyond Order.
What I've learned
the next 12 rules.
Every time I went to a different, I think so. Every time I went to a different country, I'd have warnings saying, "Watch out over there. These people are like this." It was always BS. You just go to somewhere and you're nice to them, they're nice to you back. Generally speaking. Books, Jordan Peterson, people say, he's bad, he's evil, he's this. No, he's not. Just read the book. Try it out. So that's what I'm on right now.
Final one, prediction for the next 5 years.
Tell you what I'm fearful of, and I'll tell you what I'm hoping for. Fearful? My greatest fear is that We can't get off this train. We're in a police state. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms has been eroded. We've got universal basic income in place. We're moving down a path towards communism. And my fear is that by the 5-year mark, hope I don't hit this point, but I've left Canada with my family. That's my fearful prediction. I don't know what percent of chance. I hope it's a very low chance. That'd be my fearful one. I hope it's not there. I'm going to do everything I can to not go there. My hopeful prediction, we get off this train and we figure out that, holy smokes, what do we learn from that? We better put that Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and we better put it up in every doggone classroom and every office and every public bus, and know that we got to do everything we can that for the next 100 years we don't do this again, and that we have a renewed sense of hope and passion in our communities. Like you and I, how many times have you read the Charter of Rights and Freedoms prior to this?
Not very often.
No, I think I read it a few times because a little bit. I went to where the Magna Carta was signed. In England, if you're not familiar with that. So I've had a passion for this. But even me, there were debates I've thought about, or actually thought about, or followed legal cases. I don't know if I've ever followed a legal case on a charter challenge of any kind. So that's what I hope for, Sean. That's what I hope for. I hope that in 5 years, I guess this is going to be the podcast, man. I'll tell you what, I will weep if I'm in a different country 5 years from now, and Canada's in a really, really tough spot.
It was Jordan Peterson who said, I think it's self-authoring, where you're supposed to write down, he's talking about very much about the individual. Write down how your life could be for the bad. Mm-hmm. If you go down the road of, you already mentioned it. And it's like, well, how could it get worse? How could I go down a road that is terrible? For me, cheat on my wife, lose the kids, lose my family. I mean, obviously that's a big one. Yeah. Lose my job. Like, you just go down the road and then what do you got left? Right? Yeah. That's pretty grim. And then right where you want to go, set your goals, right? And let your fear of the bad help push you towards your goals. So anyone, I listen to that and I go, I know why Ken's so motivated, because he's already going, well, I can tell you where it could go, and I don't want it to go there. And that's motivating. And
people will laugh at that, but you got to think about it. Like you couldn't have said that better, Sean. We need to pause for a moment and get out of, I don't care. This isn't about masks. It's about police state. It's about government overreach. It's about rights and freedoms. And take the right steps, and it can go either way.
And we're still early enough.
We're still early, so we can self-author this. We as people can come together and say, how do we want this to look? Stop waiting for a politician to do it for you. Let's do it together. So, Sean, I know you've got some other people coming in. Thanks for inviting me on, Sean. It's a friendship that keeps getting deeper and better, and I appreciate all you've done. And let's see what the next. Let's listen to this 5 years from now and go, whether we get that wrong. It was better than we expected. Awesome, Shotty.
Thanks again, Ken.
Yeah, you betcha.
Hey, folks. Thanks for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show, please click subscribe. Then scroll to the bottom and rate and leave a review. I promise it helps. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, we will have a new guest sitting down to share their story. The Sean Newman Podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcast fix. Until next time.